Good afternoon. Hello, I'm Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego. Welcome to our citywide redistricting meeting. Every 10 years, the city conducts a process on redistricting to make sure that our districts make sense in equalizing population and to give us a chance to have a community conversation about how to best draw the maps of our council districts. Thank you for your attendance. It will be a chance for us to have a conversation about where the city has grown. We also traditionally, in these conversations, talk about different community values, including trying to put communities of interest together. Although we know in a city with so many different school districts, legislative districts, and more, some groups may have to be in more than one district. And in some districts, people like having more than one council member to represent a community, perhaps having more than one advocate for an area, a resource, or an issue. A few highlights will be of this process are multiple rounds of meetings in every council district and a mapping tool that will go live after the first round of redistricting meetings and input has been received by the city, as well as other opportunities to provide comments online or by mail. I want to thank our team and now introduce Deputy City Manager Ginger Spencer.
Thank you, Mayor Gallego, and thank you for hosting our hybrid citywide meeting. What I'd like to start off with is actually thanking our mayor and council for overseeing our redistricting process. Also want to thank, and for your leadership, also want to thank our city manager, Jeff Barton, as well. I will introduce our team who's leading the redistricting process, and it's headed up by our city clerk, Denise Archibald. We also are working with Chris Meyer, who is our former city attorney and former city clerk, and he has actually worked on all 4 redistricting processes that have been conducted to date. And it is my pleasure to introduce our consultants that we have on board from Arkbridge Consulting and Training, who are Prissy Mather and Sam Mather. And I also would like to acknowledge that we have Mario Barajas, who is providing translation and interpretation services this afternoon. And want to thank all the viewers that we have online who are watching as well. And so with that, lastly, I just want to thank all of our city staff from the city clerk's office, the communications office, and information technology services, and the police department, everyone, Public Works, who are assisting with this process. And with that, Mayor, I'd like to turn it over to our city clerk, Denise Archibald.
Thank you, Ginger. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the public. So today we will talk about the redistricting process. We are using the same process that we've used in the past in 1990, in 2000, 2010, to ensure that we have a professional and impartial process. The city has hired a consultant with expertise in redistricting to help us with this process. Our consultants, as Ginger mentioned, are Preeti and Sam Mather with Arkbridge Consulting and Training from the Washington, D.C. area, and they were selected through a procurement process and approved by the City Council. The community input will be obtained through 2 rounds of public meetings, as the mayor mentioned. The first round is for information, and we will basically be providing information to the public on how to participate, how to provide their comments, and to let us know and give us input about communities of interest and other issues and topics that they want to tell us about the redistricting process. Then, based on that input, then we will open up the mapping tool, as Ginger mentioned, on June 29th, which is after the first round of public meetings, and then the public will be able to submit their own maps. The consultants will then take that input, and then they will put together several plans, and then we'll go back out to the community for public input on those plans. And then after receiving all of that public input, then the consultants will bring back to the council in the fall, in early September. They will bring back more information and the plan so that the council can then adopt a redistrict boundary. And that boundary will be effective in January of 2024, which is just in time for the mayor and council members for the odd number district election in November of 2024. And with that, I will turn it over to our consultants and to Preeti Mather.
Good afternoon. My name is Preeti Mathur, and I'm with Arkbridge Consulting. We have been doing redistricting for several decades, and we are happy to be here with the city of Phoenix. what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce to you the data that is required and the rules and regulations and the guidelines that are required for redistricting. So here you can see your current council districts on the left-hand side. This is a map which you've been seeing. It's on the redistricting website, on the Phoenix website. And what you're seeing on the right is 2010 census data, and then 2020 census data at the bottom. So here, what we are saying is that back in 2010, when the district boundaries were drawn, the way you see the districts as of now, the population of the city was 1.4 million. And now the population has grown to 1.6 million. For redistricting, our goals, as we will talk about it, is that we want to make sure that each district has equal population as much as possible. So back in 2010, our target was 180,704, and now with the growth, we are seeing that our target has increased to 201,000. On the next slide, once again, we compare the 2010 and 2020 data, and here I do introduce the term Public Law 94-171 census redistricting data, that by law we are required to use that. Now what we need to see on this slide here is that there has been a gain of 162,507 people, which amounts to 11.2% growth over the decade. The next thing what we did was we analyzed the data and we wanted to see where is this growth. So if you look at the map on the right, you can see that we have color-coded it by shades. So the darker the color, the more growth that district had. So here we can see that each district, and once again, we are comparing the 2010 and the 2020 data. So you can see, and on the last column, we are showing you the difference. So each district has grown, and the ones that we have highlighted are the ones where there has been considerable growth. So just looking at this, you can see that D7, or District 7, has had a growth of 32,588. District 5 has also had a considerable growth, 26,986, and District 2 has 28,981. And when we go to D8, we are seeing 22,000. So here the purpose of this slide was to show you that each district has gained in population. Now the next slide that shows you the overall district statistics. Now once again we emphasize, that the total population of the city of Phoenix as per Census 2020 is 1.6 million. Based on this, the ideal population for each district is 201,017. The ideal population is just the average population, which is total population divided by the number of districts. Now the chart below shows numbers, total population, ideal population, and also shows you the deviation. So where you're seeing the greens and the dark greens, that means these districts are under our ideal population, and the ones in red have over. So the numbers will show you that District 3, 4, 6, they have to gain about 10 to 12,000. And District 7 has 17,000 over the ideal population, and it has to lose. So if you look at the right here, you can see that we have a legend which shows what the red and greens mean, and the table shows the deviation. So having set the stage, looking at our current districts, we know we can tell right off the bat that they are not balanced and that we have to edit the districts so that each district has as equal population as possible. So now on the next slide, we show you this bar chart, and you can see the dotted line above shows you that that is our target that we are trying to reach for each district, which is 201,017. So you can see that District 1 is pretty close to the target. Now, D2, like we showed you in the previous slide, has more. D3 has less. D4 less. D5 has more. D6 has less. And D7 has the most, has 17,000 more. And D8 has a small amount, but it has more than the target that we have. Now, going to the next slide, I wanted to discuss the redistricting requirements and guidelines. So now that we know that our districts are not in balance, we have to edit them. So what are the rules? How do we do it? So on the top, you see the legal requirements. Now, these are federal requirements as well as the city charter requirements. So the first one, legal requirement, is equal population. And we know that our target is 201,017. But, equal population is not always possible. So the law provides us with this thresholds that we can work with. And that is that overall, the maximum deviation should be less than 5%, and for each district, the deviation should be under 1%. So what is maximum deviation? I just wanted to talk just a little bit about it. It's the difference between the most populated and the least populated district. So these are our equal population requirements. And then the next one is the Voting Rights Act compliance. And here we need to make sure that everyone is fairly represented and that we preserve the minority voting rights. Now, there are some other guidelines, and as you can see that some of the guidelines could be competing. So we have them listed here, and the goal is to use these guidelines as much as possible. So the first one is recognition of public preferences regarding communities of interest. So what we need to do is we are having these meetings where we can go out and talk to the community, explain to them how we need to do this redistricting, and we are seeking their feedback so they can tell us what communities are important to them and which communities should stay together. Then the other thing that whenever we talk about redistricting, the first word that anybody may think is gerrymandering. So we want to not do that. We want to make sure that our districts are contiguous and that they are compact. The other requirement is preservation of core of current districts, which means that when we are doing redistricting, we do not want to totally change them. We want to preserve the core. Then another requirement is continuity of representation. And for this, what we do is we need to make sure that the current incumbents are still in their districts as we draw the new districts. And the last one here is preservation of political subdivisions. What that means here for the city of Phoenix is that we are using the county precincts as our guideline. So now, having looked at the redistricting requirements, we wanted to go back into the 2010 data and see how the demographic, the ethnic composition of the city is. So we found on the left-hand side, when you look at the map, we are looking at the data, majority, minority, population. We are looking at it at the district level. So you can see districts 1, 2, 3, and 6 are majority, non-Hispanic white. If you look at the right-hand side of the slide, we have the legend, which explains that yellow color is for non-Hispanic white, and the red color is for Hispanic. So we can see that there are 4 non-Hispanic white districts, and there are 4 Hispanic majority districts. On the right-hand side, we are showing the same data, but at the block level, which means that we can see other races as well, and we can see where they reside. So on the other side, on the second map, you can see some blues, which is non-Hispanic black. You can also see some greens, which is non-Hispanic Asian. So we looked at the 2010 data, and then we wanted to compare it with 2020. So the same information is here, and what we see is that according to Census 2020, we still see that there are 4 majority non-Hispanic white districts that you can see, 1, 2, 3, and 6, and then there are 4 majority Hispanic districts. And like the previous slide, we have a map by the census blocks, and you can see some more greens and blues. So basically, this was done to compare the 2 data sets that we had and see how we could use this data to create the new districts. So now what I'm going to do is going to go through each district and show you the detailed ethnic and racial composition for each district. So here we have District 1. District 1 had a gain of 16,373 people. And when you look at the top part of this chart, you can see that back in 2010, when these districts were drawn, it had about 1,000 people more than our target, which was 180,000. Now with 2020, we are at 2,000, about 3,000 short. So what we need to do is we need to see how we can bring the additional population that this district is looking for. So what we have is the race and ethnicity fields listed over here, and the NH stands for non-Hispanic. So you can see that this particular district is non-Hispanic white majority. So on these side, we have the 2010 data, total population, as well as total voting age population. On the other side, we have the 2020 total population and voting age population. So by each of these categories. And with that, and on the right-hand side, it shows you where District 1 is. Now I move on to District 2. District 2 has had a gain of 28,981 people. And if you look at the numbers here, it is 7,000 more than our target of 201,017. So this is once again a non-Hispanic white majority district. So when we start to create the districts, and like Denise said, that the community will also have the opportunity, this information is going to be helpful, that you know that D2 already has 7,000 more. Now D3 gained 12,106 people, but you can see when we compare it with the 2020 target, D3 is 12,000 people short. So when you start to draw the districts and when we start to look at them, we need to make sure that we can look at the neighboring districts and there's a possibility we could, because D2 already has more, so we can look at areas that could be assigned to D3. So now we move on, and once again, this is a non-Hispanic white majority district. Moving on to District 4. District 4 gained 11,064 people, but when you compare it with the 2020 target of 201,000, we see that District 4 has 10,000 short of the target, and it needs to gain. This is a Hispanic majority district. Moving on to D5, you can see that this district has gained 26,986 people, and this is a Hispanic majority district, and it has about 7,500 more people than the target, than the ideal population that we are looking for. Moving on to D6. D6 has gained 11,699 people. It's a non-Hispanic white majority district, and another name for this district is the Barbell District, just because it's like in two different parts. So that is your D6, and D6 is 10,000 people short of the target, so it stands to gain population so that it can come up to the required number. Moving on to D7, you can see that D7 has grown the most, 32,588 people, and it has 17,000 people more than the target. So you know that when we start to draw the districts, D7 would have to lose some population so that the whole plan would be balanced. Now, moving on to D8. Now, if you look at D8, and if you look at the top part of the slide, you'll see that D8 has 4,000 people more than the target. It's a Hispanic majority district, and this district can give up to 4,000 or somewhere close to other neighboring districts. So with this, I have presented to you the Census 2020 data, which we are required to use by law, and I have presented the redistricting guidelines, and now we are here for questions and comments that you may have.
To all of our, there we go. All right. Thank you, Priti, for that presentation. So once again, we want to thank you to Mayor Gallego for hosting today's hybrid community meeting. We want to say thank you again to everyone for attending the meeting. Again, we do have viewers online. There will be 4 other meetings that will be conducted to complete the first round of meetings. So please remember, there are several avenues available to provide input, including submitting your own proposed maps starting June 29th. And materials are available on our website, and you can go to Phoenix.gov. So again, thank you to everyone who has attended. Oh, also, all the information will be available online in both English and Spanish. All right, and that concludes our meeting today. Thank you.